call this meeting of the Linden Board of Education, the November meeting to order. Please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Statement of adequate notice.
In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as follows. On January 10th, 2018, notice was sent to the Home News Tribune, Star Ledger, local source, and the clerk of the municipality. By state law, there is no smoking permitted in this building at any time. In addition to the listed items in this agenda, this Board of Education may discuss and act upon other items not specifically referred to herein, as is allowed at the regularly scheduled monthly board meeting under the Sunshine Law.
Roll call.
Mr. Shahada?
Here.
Mrs. Valani? Here. Mrs. Welsh? Here. Mrs. Beviano?
She's in
Birch?
traffic.
Ms. Gilliam? Here. Ms. Kozak? Here. Mr. Martucci?
Here.
Mr. Tobolewski?
Here. I'll accept the motion for approval of minutes.
So moved.
Need a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Shahada?
Yes.
Mrs. Valani?
Yes.
Mrs. Welsh?
Yes.
Ms. Guillaume?
Yes.
Gilliam? Ms. Kozak?
Yes.
Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Mr. Tobolewski?
Yes. Comments from the public on agenda items only. Seeing none. Superintendent report.
Thank you, Mrs. Tobolewski. Good evening, members of the Board of Education, community members. If you have a chance, if you have not already, please take a look at my full superintendent's report, which is a newsletter that is published each month on the day of our Board of Education meetings. It's available in print tonight and will be sent out tomorrow electronically through email and social media. It's an interactive newsletter that contains short articles about all of the amazing things going on in our district. Sometimes there's a link to more photos and videos on our district website. I'd like to take an opportunity during this holiday season to wish all of our students, their families, and all of our district employees a very, very happy and healthy Thanksgiving. I'm very thankful for being a part of this amazing school district for 21 years. And I'd like to ask each board member now to report on what they are thankful for. Joe. It's a joke, Shannon. It's okay.
I thought that was nice.
It's a joke.
I was all prepared.
I'm sure you was. I have a brief presentation, and I'd like to ask if all the board members would step down off the stage for a brief presentation. The November board meeting is always a little sad for me and for some of the board members because it's usually our last meeting of the year, and inevitably someone is leaving the board, either by their own choice or because of election results. So tonight we have 3 board members who are leaving the board. This will be their last official meeting. And I think it's important that we take a moment to recognize these 3 people who have volunteered their time to the betterment of our school district and our community. Thank you for supporting me in everything that I have done for this district. Thank you for supporting our students. Thank you for listening. Thank you for fighting when fights needed to be fought. And thank you for always keeping our students first in your mind. I have a small token of appreciation for Mrs. Elizabeth Welsh. believe for 1 year? Is that a proper word? Mrs. Teresa Villani has served for 3 years as a Board of Education member. And when you get to the point where you've been on the board for 18 3/4 years, 18 2/3 of a year, you get something a little more than a badge. So I'd like to recognize Mr. Topoleski, our Board of Education President. To say that he has made an impact on our district does not do him justice. I've had the opportunity to work very closely with him. As the superintendent, you work very closely with the board president. In between board meetings, if there's something important going on, I communicate with the Board of Education president instead of having to communicate with 9 different people. So over the years, Mr. Topoleski, during my 5.5 years as superintendent, he's been the board president twice. So we've had an opportunity to work very closely together. I said this publicly at our launch, I'll say it again. Whenever I proposed a new idea or had a thought, the first thing he would always want to know is, was it good for kids? The second thing he'd want to know is if it was good for our faculty and staff. And if you could answer yes to those questions, you always had his support. Doing anything for 18.5 years is a long time, but doing something for 18.5 years as a volunteer, you gotta be a little crazy, right? So those of you who know Mr. Topoleski know he's a little crazy, but in a good way. But what it does is it says, and those of you who don't know, and I'm sure you've never heard this, Mr. Topoleski was a teacher. Yes, he was a teacher for many years in East Brunswick. But what it does say is, it says a lot about his character. 18.5 years to devote to students. And it was not that it's a bad thing if you're a board member and you have children in the schools. Mr. Topoleski did this after his children were out of school. So it just says something about his character and his motivation. So on a personal note, I will miss you very much, very much. And I want to thank you for all the personal and professional support you've shown me. I want to thank you for all you've done for our school district. And on behalf of a grateful community, we have this small token of appreciation for you. You'll always have a gavel. I'd like you, Ms. Topoleski, to say a few words, and you want to wait till later. Show everybody. Show everybody. Can we get the full board up for a picture? Would all the board members come up for a picture, please? Please? Wall. Mrs. Clear, Ms. Gaylord, please. Wait, what's your name? Let me get on that. Yeah, a little bit. Gary, can you get us in?
You move to the get away from the podium. The podium's blocked. Now you can get on side.
Mr. Topoleski, for the last time, that concludes my report. Yeah, that would be nice. Mrs. Topoleski, will you come up for a picture with your husband?
Since you're an honorary board member, and a little bit more well-liked.
That's a good thing, really.
This was one of the chairs from the bus that got the flag.
Attorney's report.
There's one item on for this evening's attorney's report. There's a motion to disenroll 3 students for lack of residency. I'd ask for a motion, please.
So moved.
4 students. We need a second?
Second.
Mark, if it matters, 4 students.
It's 3 students plus
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. There's 4 students. Who was the second? I apologize. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Shahada?
Yes.
Mrs. Valani?
Yes.
Mrs. Welch?
Yes.
Ms. Gilliam?
Yes.
Ms. Kozak? Yes. Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Mr. Topolesky?
Yes. Curriculum and instruction, Mrs. Welch.
Yes. The Curriculum and Instruction Committee, upon recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools and the Assistant Superintendent, present the following motions to the Linden Board of Education for approval. There are 31 items under Curriculum and Instruction for approval. Items 1 through 8 deal with the approval and termination of specialized programs for the placement of classified students, the approval of payments for related services, the termination of related services, the assignment and termination of one-on-one paraprofessionals, the termination of home instruction, and the approval for enrollment of a student. Item 9 amends board action on past C&I reports. Item 10 accepts curriculum. Item 11 grants permission for use of facilities and school activities. Item 12 approves district field trips and amendments. Item 13 approves training for district staff. Item 14 approves professional development activities. Item 15 approves Title I tutoring. Items 16 and 17 approve students to participate in the inter-district public school choice program and the charter school enrollment. Item 18 approves EduSeer courses. Item 19 approves an early dismissal day at Linden High School. Item 20 grants permission for a board-sponsored toy drive. Item 21 grants approval for the LHS Italian exchange to travel to Italy. I'd like to go on that one. Items 22 through 25 grants approval to enter into an agreement with Sinai Christian Academy as per the non-public Technology and Security Initiative, and to appoint Jennifer Smith and Michael Walters as the designated program contacts. Items 26 through 29 grant approval to submit the Title I-A Performance Data Report, the Title I-D Consolidated State Performance Report, and authorizes the submission of the 2018 IDEA Final Report and IDEA 2019 Annual Grant. Item 13 accepts the superintendent's report on the student safety data submission for report period 2 of 2017-2018. Item 31 approves the superintendent's determination and actions taken for all reported incidents of harassment, intimidation, and bullying discussed at the October 30th, 2018 regular meeting. Mr. President, I move curriculum and instruction items 1 through 31 and respectfully ask for a second.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Shahada?
Yes.
Mrs. Valani?
Yes.
Mrs. Welch?
Yes.
Gilliam?
Yes.
Ms. Kozak? Yes. Mr. Martucci? Mr. Topolesky?
Yes. Management Operations Report, Mrs. Valani.
The Management Operations Committee, upon recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, present the following motions to the Linden Board of Education for approval. Item number 1, I'm going to pass to Dr. Robertosi.
Thank you, Mrs. Valani. We were saddened to hear of the death of Ms. Thelma Southers, who works for the Board of Education for 29 years. Thelma taught biology at Linden High School, and then was a guidance counselor for many years at both Seoul Middle School and Linden High School. On behalf of the district, we offer our most heartfelt condolences to her family. Thank you.
Item number 2, would I pass back to you, Dr. Albertozzi? Would you like to?
Well, thankfully, it's not a death notice. It is a congratulatory notice.
Indeed.
Yes. I think it would be appropriate at this time if any board members would like to say anything about Mr. Tobolewski. Now might be a good time.
I guess as VP, I will start. Mr. Tobolewski was actually one of the reasons that I ran for Board of Ed. Dr. Albertozzi being another one, Brian Russell being the third. However, being on the board for 3 years and working with him, especially at the different levels, at the county levels and the state levels, I've come to appreciate his very specific role and what he offered to the board. And that is a voice in Trenton, a voice at the county level. He did the work that the board members wanted to do. And always came with his experience as, I know you're going to be shocked, a teacher.
Oh, really?
So while he may have been one of the reasons, driving forces to get me to run, I can honestly say that I appreciated the 3 years working with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll go if you want us to. So I've known the Topoleskis for many years. On a personal note, I don't know how many years back it is, but my mom used to babysit for their children many, many years ago, so I've known them a really long time. And from that, when I used to sit out there in that audience, I have to say that I admire your knowledge and your willingness to always learn and to better yourself as a board member. And that was very inspiring to me. So good luck, enjoy the time, your years ahead with your family, and I hope you do some really fun things with all this time you spent doing board business.
Okay. Ms. One.
Continuing. Item number 3 is a retirements as listed below. Item number 4, amends past board actions. Item number 5, accept resignations as the staff is listed. Items number 6, 8, 11 through 21, 23 through 29, 34 through 42 are all a variety of appointments. Item number 9 approves change in degree for the following staff as listed. Item 10 compensates staff members for unused vacation and sick days. Item 22 approves the following musicians to accompany all middle and high school concerts for the 2018-2019 year. Item number 43 are 2 more resignations. Item number 44 are more change in degrees. Item number 45 are 2 more amendments to pass board actions. Item 46 approves assignment upon return from leave replacement position. And number 47 is yet another leave of absence. I move items 1 through 47 and respectfully ask for a second. Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Shahada?
Yes.
Mrs. Galani?
Yes.
Mrs. Welch?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilliam?
Yes.
Ms. Kozak? Yes. Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Mr. Tobolewski?
Support operations report, Mr. Martucci.
All right, the Support Operations Committee, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools and the Business Administrator Board Secretary, presents the following motions to the Linden Board of Ed for approval. Finance numbers 1 through 15 and facilities 1 through 9. And I ask for second.
Roll call.
Mr. Shahada?
Yes.
Mrs. Galani?
Yes.
Mrs. Welch?
Yes.
Ms. Gilliam?
Yes to all and no to number 2.
Ms. Kozak? Yes. Mr. Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Mr. Topolowski?
Yes. Planning and Policy Report, Mr. Shahab.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion related to the amended policy 9121. Whereas the Linden Board of Education has adopted bylaws to govern the board's operations, including bylaw number 9121, elections and duties of president, and whereas bylaw number 9121, as presently written, does not establish qualifications to be eligible to serve as board president, and whereas Robert's Rule of Order provides that an organization's bylaws should state any eligibility requirements for each office, and whereas on November 15th, the board passed a resolution to amend bylaw number 9121 by a 6-3 vote, establishing certain qualifications for members to serve as board president, and whereas the board president has carefully and deliberately determined that it is in the best interest to amend bylaw number 9121 in accordance with the terms of this resolution. Now therefore be it resolved that the Linden Board of Education hereby suspends the notice requirements of bylaw 9323, 9324, and hereby adopts bylaw number 9121 as written on second reading.
Need a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Shahada?
Yes.
Mrs. Valani?
Yes.
Mrs. Welsh?
Yes.
Ms. Gillian?
No.
Ms. Kozak?
No.
Mr. Martucci?
No.
Mr. Topolowski?
Yes. Mr. Shahada on planning policy.
Thank you, sir. The Planning and Policy Committee submitted policy for second reading to incorporate new features required by code and law and to elaborate on local district policies for second reading, number 5131.6. Mr. President, I move Planning and Policy Item 1 and respectfully ask for a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Shahada?
Yes.
Mrs. Valani?
Yes.
Mrs. Welsh?
Yes.
Ms. Gillian?
No on 2.
Ms. Kozak?
Yes.
Mr. Martucci?
No.
Mr. Topolowski?
Yes. Okay. Negotiations Committee, Mrs. Valani.
Well, I can finally say that negotiations are complete. The custodial maintenance ratified the contract with a vote of 100% for it. So we have a contract that I'm very proud of because I think it does the employees of the district good. It gave them an opportunity to see that they are valued, and I hope that it helps them to feel appreciated, improves morale. But also good for the community, because taking in mind what we are going to be getting from the state, we should have a 0% tax increase for the next couple of years. So the negotiation committee, upon recommendation of the superintendent of schools, presents the following motion to the Linden Board of Education for approval. Approve the following resolution. Whereas the Linden Board of Education and the Linden Education Association are parties to a collective negotiations agreement, and whereas the parties have met for the purposes of negotiating a successor collective negotiations agreement with the custodial maintenance staff, and have tentatively agreed to those terms and conditions set forth in the memorandum of agreement on file with the board secretary, business administrator, which is incorporated by reference herein. And whereas the association has overwhelmingly ratified the MOA, and whereas the board's full negotiations committee recommends that the MOA be approved by the full board, and whereas the board has received the MOA and agrees with the recommendations set forth herein, now therefore be it resolved by the Linden Board of Education as follows. The board hereby approves the MOA between the board and association for the custodial maintenance staff. The board authorizes the superintendent, business administrator, and other appropriate parties to take any and all actions necessary to effectuate the terms of this resolution and the MOA. And the board hereby further authorizes the board president and board secretary to take necessary subsequent action on behalf of the board to execute the successor collective negotiations agreement between the board and the association for the period July 1, 2018 through July 30th, 2021, and enforce the terms of such contract as attached.
Need a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Shahada?
Yes.
Mrs. Valani?
Yes.
Mrs. Welch?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilliam?
Yes.
Ms. Kozak?
Yes.
Mr. Martucci?
Abstain.
Mr. Topolowski?
Yes. Okay. EST for parents and high school students, Mrs. Welch.
Yes, good evening. Unfortunately, Mrs. Birch had a family commitment this evening, so she asked me to fulfill her duty and give her reports. So the parent EST meeting was held November 13th at the administration building at 7 p.m. Parents, grandparents, and teachers from the high schools, Seoul, McManus, 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10 were in attendance, as well as Mr. Topolowski, Mrs. Malani, Mr. Shahada, and Mrs. Birch, and many parents who would like to see these EST meetings continue. Dr. Robertozzi was our guest speaker, and he did a fabulous job. He stayed with us the entire meeting and did a presentation of what was going on in the district and answered questions from the floor. Thank you for taking the time to attend. It was appreciated by all, Dr. Robertozzi.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Class 3 officers were discussed at the meeting. We were asked to please be very diligent in hiring the officers and that they should be a good fit for our district and children. The marquee at School 4 was quite small, and they were having some problems posting on it because things did not fit quite right. The parents were very pleased with the posting on Instagram from McManus. It keeps them informed, and whoever is posting is doing a great job. Do we know who that is? Or
Mr. Pone.
Mr. Pone, excellent. Parents really like the departmentalization on the elementary level. It seems to be working really well, and the students are adjusting nicely to the change. And just on a side note, I want to say that at the word convention, we learned a lot about it, and it seems that Linden is in the forefront of that departmentalization, so excellent job. Parents recognized Mrs. Fabrizio and Mr. Schweikert for being great teachers. Shout out to them. A nudge letter was discussed, and a nudge letter is a letter to inform you about your child's attendance. Those are going to start to come home shortly. Mr. Walters was filling in for Mr. Mastriano as principal for the day at School 6, and the parents said he did a great job. Is he here, Mr. Walters? Shout out, he did a great job. They said he visited every classroom and engaged in conversation with the parents. So we hear a lot of great things at these EST meetings. There were some concerns at School 6 about, guess what? Pomptonian and the children who got some fruit with mold on it, but I believe that whole situation has been taken care of. School 6, there were a few concerns. They switched from Chinese to Spanish, and there was a concern about the switch and how the students would adjust. Parents were asking about the parent universities and when we will be having more. They felt the sessions were filled with great information and resources and are looking forward to having more, and I agree. I attended many of them. They are fabulous. Parents were questioning how teachers decide when they are giving tests and how many tests they will give per day. It seems that a lot of kids were getting multiple tests on the same day. A question was asked if the BOE can look into sponsoring summer camps. It was also asked that if aftercare could provide more formal learning, like maybe some STEM incorporated there. A parent would like to know if we could have someone come in, this is interesting, and teach piano lessons. If parents are interested, they could pay for the services. Also, someone wanted to know what kind of tutoring services and buddy programs we have available to the students, and that maybe there are some grants for some of the programs that were mentioned, and people wanted to know if we apply for grants here in Linden. And do we share information among the schools about different grants that are applied for? We had a great night. A lot of information was given and received. It's a great way for the board members to hear what is happening in the district, and a great way for parents to come and get the answers to questions they have and share the great events happening at each of the schools. Our next meeting will be December 18th at the BOE office at 7 p.m. and we hope you will come out and bring a friend. Please spread the word. That concludes my report, Mr. President, for Parent EST.
Thank you. High school?
Would like to continue? Student EST was held November 14th in the cafeteria at Linden High School, 8 a.m. Mrs. Kushner, the advisor, as well as Mr. Fakiti and Mrs. Birch attended the meeting. There were 4 freshmen, 2 sophomores, 4 juniors, 4 seniors, 7 gentlemen, 7 ladies. The students were very impressed with the bonfire and the homecoming dance. They thanked Mr. Fakiti for all of his hard work on the events. Girls volleyball, this is really exciting actually, so really listen to this. Girls volleyball held their pink out game, and the students said there was a tremendous turnout and the gymnasium was packed. They had students from all of the other sports teams that came out and supported them, and they were very appreciative of that. That is really awesome. In case you don't know, the Pink Out supports breast cancer awareness, so that's really awesome. It was brought up that senior night for track and field, marching band, and ROTC they don't really have a senior night for those groups where the parents come and you walk on the field and you give flowers to your mom and all that. So they were hoping that perhaps that could be something they could do in the future. The seniors were asking about the media center opening. They love it. They are very excited to see a space in the high school that they can go to so they can study, print, and do projects. And that's what it's all about, isn't it, people? Taking care of our kids, and they really love it. There was more talk about how they were going to decorate the newly renovated cafeteria. They were looking to put up some canvases of the different sports teams, but it could be costly, so they were brainstorming on how to decorate and keep costs down. I think they had in mind, like if you ever go to Fridays and you see like all those pictures. A Night of One Acts is a production that was just recently done at the high school, and it was fantastic, by the way. It was really great, especially the bus scene was really awesome. They would like to see more promotion of this event and many other events that take place at the high school. It was reported that the hallways are so much easier to maneuver and the students have finally settled in. It's a lot easier to get to class and they are not worrying so much about being late. Mr. Walters popped in. Mr. Walters, getting a lot of shout outs, popped into our meeting last month and talked with the students about some of the issues that were going on. At this meeting, the students reported that most of the issues had been cleared up, and they were very thankful to Mr. Walters and impressed that he remembered everything they discussed and fixed it. I think we should give Mr. Walters a round of applause. On to the bad news, Mr. Walters. No, just kidding. Laptops and iPads were a concern. The students want to make sure they will be able to keep the laptop because they do not like the idea of the iPad. The iPad to them is more of a tool where the laptop is more of a personal workspace. So they are asking for us to take in consideration their concerns when choosing the next device that they are given. The students expressed some concern over the subs and how some of them maybe aren't so great. The band room is extremely cold, so they want to know if can we somehow get some heat in there. And with all that's going on in the world, the students are and have been expressing the need and want some self-defense classes, maybe in gym. And then on to an issue concerning the locker rooms in the gymnasium. The students are upset. They had some complaints about the ceiling and the locks and the lockers. They said that there were schools visiting and there were some comments made by other teams and people from other schools about the condition. So they were hoping that that could be fixed. The students had various questions and concerns about the Class 3 officers, and rightly so, they should. So I'm glad to see that they're paying attention. A Veterans Day program was hosted by the city, as well as the NJROTC. The students said both programs were phenomenal and were proud to have been able to honor the veterans. Mr. Valentino, who was a math teacher at the high school, and the students pointed out that he has a great approach to how he teaches his lessons. He hands a packet of notes to the students before each lesson, and this way they don't have to actually take notes. And they can wait for people to catch up. By doing this, they said it gives Mr. Valentino more time to actually teach the lesson. So the students can ask questions, and he can help them with what they don't understand. The students really wanted to thank him for that and acknowledge that. Mrs. Horry came in towards the end of the meeting to discuss some of the concerns, answer some of the questions, and hear the positive things happening in the high school. This meeting was different because a lot of the student concerns from last month were addressed. That's really good to hear. And they came in with a better outlook on how things are progressing. There's always room for improvement, and these meetings help us know where we can improve, and there was always room for praise, and the students do give praise and wonderful feedback, so thank you to the students as well. Our next meeting is December 18th at 9 a.m. in the school cafeteria. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Ed Services, Ms. Guillaume.
Okay, for Ed Services, we had welcomed the new board that we had, and then there was also like a really nice presentation. It was a gentleman that came in. He's over the program called Hope, and pretty much that is a alternative school, and they're implementing that in Elizabeth right now. So they were just showing us different styles and techniques that the teacher and the principal use, and was hoping to have the board make a decision or take interest into his presentation or use that in our district. And then we also went over the HBRs. That concludes my report.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
County meeting, I asked Mrs. Vallant, she was there, and I asked her to give a report on the county meeting.
Once again, it was quite informative, and I hope that the new members remember to go to these meetings because they're very informative at both the county level and the state level. This month's topic, we saw a presentation on the non-college bound learner, and which we got to watch again at the state meeting a couple days later.
It's a big deal for the state president, that's why.
Yes. The big topic was affecting student achievement, leveraging data, and how the state level, the Commission of Education, is really pushing using the data that we have from the variety of testing that we do throughout the district, and not just the old park, which just changed its name, by the way. It hasn't changed anything. However, we were praised once again for being cutting edge with Dr. Ramatozzi creating the data and assessment guru position. We actually got praise from the state, the president, and the county delegates. Once again, Dr. Ramatozzi, Ms. Cleary, you're doing things that are ahead of your peers and really help to drive Linden forward. I hope we get to continue doing that. And then there was a little tiny presentation right at the end of that for acknowledging Mr. Tobolewski and his years of service and his outgoing presidency.
I served as county president for 3 years, so that was the conclusion of that meeting.
Yes.
All right. I will give the state report. State delegate assembly was this past Saturday at Mercer County Community College. I will tell the remaining board members that you need to appoint a delegate. The meetings are on Saturdays. They're only 2 a year. So So, let me get to that report that I wrote. All right.
Take your time, Mr. Topolesky.
Excuse me?
I said, take your time.
President Sinclair called the meeting to order at 9 a.m. They discussed the October workshop, new board member training, white paper on education for the non-college bound student. He also talked about the terms of the executive board of the state association are ending, and the election will be held at the delegate assembly in May. So whoever is the representative from Linden will actually vote on who gets to be an officer. It's important that you go through the business administrator so that she can register the person who's going to be the delegate, and they get their email so that they get the information about that, and that's how you register, and you get the booklet and stuff sent home. Dr. Feinsod then talked. Dr. Feinsod is the executive director of New Jersey School Boards. He used to teach here in Linden. Talked about the importance of school board membership, a successful workshop that included the Steam Tank Challenges, which is sponsored in cooperation with the United States Army. The Steam Tank competition, which is a takeoff on Shark Tank, has grown from 32 entries the first year of the program. This past year, there were 417 entries. And of the 417 entries, 90 teams were brought down to Atlantic City to actually do the presentations in front of board members. They also then showed us a video clip of the winners. He spoke about the need to find common ground with other educational organizations so they can work together to achieve sound educational goals. Also mentioned how the county organizations work hard to deliver a sound educational program for board members. When you attend a county meeting, you get credits, you get education credits. Depending on what the meeting is, it may be one. You also get fed sometimes. So that's another reason to go. And then he mentioned that board members should improve their relationships with their local legislators because there's going to be a lot of there are new laws affecting education involved, and they need to know that you know what they're doing. You would be amazed at how effective it is. They have a program, New Jersey School Boards has a program where they go through all the legislative districts and try to arrange meetings with the different assembly people and senators over the summer when the legislature is down and people have more free time. For the 9th year in a row, there will be no dues increase for the New Jersey School Boards. They also talked about the Educational Leadership Foundation, which they call ELF. The weekend training for new school board members is sponsored by ETS and NJSIG, which is the New Jersey State Insurance Group. New board member weekends cost $100,000. There's also $50,000 for a leadership weekend, $130,000 for county board meetings, and an additional $40,000, which is for one-day programs. This is all these programs do not come from dues. So it's very impressive. They're working on releasing a new book, Basic School Law. The new book is supposed to be available, I think, in the summer. It's one of their most popular titles. They've increased their use of video conferencing so that people that live a distance from Trenton, where a lot of the meetings are held, can video in instead of driving down from Sussex or up from Cape May County. We saw the career-focused learner. There's also a white paper being worked on now for mental health. They held their first meeting. That's something that's coming out of the state legislature. And so New Jersey School Boards is on the lead to get that done. There were no policies to vote on there, which is the first I've been going since 2000. It's the first time I've ever gone to a delegate assembly, and there hasn't been a policy to vote on. However, they did arrange a presentation. Initially, State Senator Sweeney and former Education Commissioner Lucille Davies were supposed to be there. Senator Sweeney bowed out, and he was replaced by his chief of staff, Mark Magyar, and they did the presentation. What I took from this presentation is when they had the commission to develop this thing, and it is available, you can see it, path to progress. It has to do about funding. And one of the three things they did was, one of the things that they want to do is condense boards of education. Now, when you hear that right away, you're kind of taken aback. But when you realize there are boards of education that are non-operating boards, meaning they don't have a school in their community, but they have a board of education. There are districts that only have K-5 or K-8 districts, and that are very sparsely populated. One of the people mentioned a K-8 district that had 185 students in the entire district. And they talked about combining with other elementary schools and thereby being able to produce, being able to share specials and stuff like that. The big problem comes in with grades 6, 7, and 8, which are considered middle school, where there's a lot more variety of education. The elementary schools, when they're small, you can pretty much take care of them. But the high school, the middle schools tend to be a problem, especially when you have 10 kids in a class. The second thing they talked about was special education. It is Senator Sweeney's desire that at some point the state take over and fully fund the 85%, not only the 85% of extraordinary aid. Right now, if it costs more than $40,000 to educate a special needs child, the local district can apply for the funds that exceed that amount. I believe the return on that amount this year or last year was about 53%. It's supposed to be 85%. So not only does he want to see that happen, but his ultimate goal is to take special ed funding away from the local districts totally. And so that you would only be responsible for the amount of money it would cost to educate that child if they weren't a special needs child. And that all the rest of the money would come from the state. Where they're going to find the money is the issue. And then...
Can I just make a note on that topic, because that really...
Mrs. Villani was there. I didn't see her, but she was there.
I thought I found you. Ms. Davies, that was speaking about this, she's part of the original funding solution that decided it was a good idea to just give the school districts special ed funding based on a percentage of students rather than how many actual students they had who had special needs. And she tried to backpedal, saying, you have to understand, it was, the economy was tanking, and, we tried our best. What we wanted to prevent, and this is what angered me as a parent more than anything, and I do not have special needs kids, was that they wanted to prevent school districts from arbitrarily classifying students just to get more money out of the state. So they penalized the entire state, all these districts that have more special needs kids, because they were afraid that other kids were going to get classified just so the districts could grab extra money. And that really angered me. So that is why it's very important that we have a voice in Trenton. And that was it.
I don't remember when Magyar spoke. He basically didn't have much to say. Those are the major two topics. But what he did say is that at this point, there's no real legislation on the horizon. It's more of a question of finding the money and how they're going to get the money. He also said that there is no legislation to eliminate Chapter 78 funding for healthcare costs. So that concludes that report. Okay. We already talked about class 3 officers we talked about.
No, we talked about last time.
All right, comments from board members on any topic? Well, we'll start it. Well, no, you know what, Liz, I'm going to leave you till closer to the end. Greg, go ahead.
No, I'd just like to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving and a very safe holiday season and a very great 2019. And all I can tell you is that this past year in our country, we've had a lot of tragedy. A lot of people died for a lot of reckless behavior. And all I can say to all of us is be very vigilant when you're outside. Be vigilant of your surroundings, with your family, because you've seen it this year. It's probably the worst I've ever seen it. We all have seen it in our lifetimes. And I don't see it getting any better. But I wish everyone a very happy holiday season and a very glorious and successful 2019.
Sherry? No?
Sure, yeah. So I went to the play on Friday and I enjoyed it. Sandy, it was replacing, I forget who the drama teacher is, but she was replacing her, and I wanted to say kudos to her because she did a wonderful job not being a drama teacher for a long period of time. She did her best. The students worked really hard, and I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Mrs. Deviano.
First, my sincerest apologies to everybody for being so late to the meeting. I had to pick up my daughter from college. A trip that normally takes an hour took 2.5 hours because of rush hour traffic, so I do apologize for not being here for the meeting. So this is the most you're going to hear me talk because you guys don't hear me talk very much. Liz, your last meeting. I was trying to figure out how long I've known you. I think it's about 15 years. I think Brandon and Jackie were 3, maybe 4, so about 15 years. You've always been an advocate for the children. I got the pleasure of serving with your son Dylan when he served on the board. I know you learned a lot, but you spent a lot of time in our audience as a participating parent. You spoke probably more times than I did at the board meetings. You were always up at the podium, and I know you're going to continue fighting for the children from down there. You're going to go back to your little crew down there, okay? They're saving you your seat. But I wanted to thank you for stepping up this year and serving on the board and knowing what it is that we do from this side of the podium. So thank you very much for everything. Wasn't she great, everybody? Teresa, you're still stuck with me every day for work. So I know
You're stuck with me.
I know what I did when you asked me first about the board. I told her it was only 2 meetings a month. But as you know, it's how much you put into it. You did not have to do everything that you did. You could come just to the 2 meetings. But she stepped up to the plate. In her first term of 3 years, she became a certified board member. She's attended... Certified new board member, which by the way, I never did. And that's not a good thing on my behalf, by the way. She's attended county meetings. She's attended state meetings. She made sure she was educated on everything that the board needed to do. 12 years on the, I've been 11 years on the board, and there's times where I go to her to ask her the process on something because she actually knew what she was doing. So Teresa, thank you for everything you've done for the children and for our staff. I know the phone calls that you've gotten. I know you're going to relax now, but I will still be coming to you for certain things. But thank you for everything you've done. Ray. I never thought it would get to the point where I would become the most senior board member. In 12 years, Ray has, and many of the board members have basically become family. You spend so much time together, talking, hanging out, we fight, we laugh. But Ray and I have had a lot of good times on the board, and he will tell you there's been times where we would fight up here, but we would walk outside, shake hands, and go get a drink. We've done that many times. Ray, I learned a lot from you over the years. Some good and some bad.
Don't tell anybody.
Alice, it was always a pleasure to know you and the children and the grandchildren. So thank you for putting up with us for the past 18 years. I never thought anybody would make a career out of it, although I did find out that in New Jersey there was somebody who's put 50 years on the board. But Ray, 18 years, we learned that Ray likes to talk. You can't keep him quiet. In case you didn't know, Ray was a teacher, woodshop teacher, and then somewhere along the line became technology teacher.
It goes back.
And then it goes back to woodshop. What was it, Ray?
Multiple subjects.
Multiple subjects. So he's always played the part or defended the teachers in certain aspects at the same time as being a board member. So Ray, thank you for 18 years of service. Thank you for all the work you've done with the children and for the staff and for being my friend. I'm going to greatly miss you.
I would like to wish everyone in our district, all of our board members and their families a healthy holiday season as well as a healthy new year.
Med?
Just want to wish everybody a happy holiday and thank you three for your service over the years. It's been a pleasure. Ray, we started off very not close, to say the least, but you turned into my favorite person on the board. Teresa. I'm sorry. Teresa, you and I, we butted heads day one, but now we tolerate one another. It's been a pleasure. And Mama Liz, always having my back through thick and thin. I truly appreciate everything. And I'm going to come to you guys for advice and guidance for as long as I'm here.
Mrs. Welsh?
So, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be that short. So when I was typing I had to write this down, and I was typing in my Google Docs, and I called it farewell speech. So I'm just going to say good evening. And first I would like to say that my experience this past year is one that I will never forget. I learned so much. I will forever be grateful for the opportunity to serve. Thank you, Mrs. Villani. To my fellow board members, my three Mrs. Birch, Mrs. Deviano, and Mrs. Villani, I can't say enough.
Okay, without the tears, Liz.
I know. You showed me what it
You
is.
start crying, raising a cry. Ray's probably going to cry.
You showed me what it is like to serve the students and staff of this district, the taxpayers, and all stakeholders with dignity, courage, and tenacity. And Mrs. Villani, you are amazing. If you didn't know something, you made it a point to do the research and find it out. And everything you did came from the right place, and you did them for the right reasons. This board will be lost without you. To Dr. Robert Tozy and Mrs. Gaylord, I am in awe of you both. This district is blessed to have you at the helm. Sorry. Although we may not have always agreed on everything, every time I had a concern or a question, you were always there for me to answer or with swift action. And Ray, Mr. President Topoleski, I appreciate your knowledge and your willingness to work hard to become a better board member. And thank you for your years of service. And now it's time for you to enjoy your family and the years ahead, and you will be missed greatly. Don't be a stranger. You are still a taxpayer in this district, so keep them on their toes. Although I will no longer be sitting up here on this dais, I am not going away. I will be in that audience, listening, watching, and asking the tough questions. And as a stakeholder in this community, I demand that the members of this board be ethical and serve with complete integrity. If you do not, I and other members, my crew of this community, will be here to hold you accountable for your actions. If you are serving because you were asked to or told to by someone, looking to gain control of this board because you are out for revenge or trying to help family members or receive promotions, then perhaps you should rethink what you are doing, step down, and allow someone to serve who wants to do it for the right reasons. To the new board members and those currently serving, I ask that you represent our district well. Pay attention at your board trainings. know your role, and pay extra special attention to the section on ethics. School board members shall abide by the following code of ethics. I will confine my board action to policy making. I will carry out my responsibility not to administer the schools, but to see that they are well run. I will make no personal promises or take any private action that may compromise this board. I will refuse to surrender my independent judgment to partisan political groups or to use the schools for personal gain or for the gain of friends. I will hold confidential all matters pertaining to the schools, which, if disclosed, would needlessly injure individuals or the schools. In all other matters, I will provide accurate information. With that said, this is not goodbye for me. Rather, it is I will see you real soon. I am looking forward to joining my crew of ladies on the left, and just know that we will be here watching, listening, and asking the tough questions. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, I really mean it, for the opportunity to serve this town of Linden that I love so well. Thank you.
Let me start off with a sad note first, because I just want to acknowledge the passing of one of our students, Sophia Thomas. She was 5 years old, was in a car accident which took both her and her grandmother. She was a student at School 4 and an active patron at the public library. It's where I got to know her and her family. So I just want to acknowledge her passing because she's a sweet and loving little girl. Let me first say, Mrs. Welsh, thank you for stepping up when I know that you didn't want to. I learned a lot from you and from your perspective as a teacher. And sometimes when I felt like I didn't have the fight in me, I knew that you would be there to push me along, push us along. Dawn, 2 meetings a month. Dawn Beviano makes me be a better person because she does so much for the community and somehow I get dragged along with it, so I thank you for making me be a better me. Ahmed, I will say, we started off interestingly, but I will acknowledge out publicly that I believe that Mr. Shiata is for the children. And we still may not always agree, but I do know that anything that he wants to do, he's doing it for the right reasons. Mr. Topoleski, I really do respect your knowledge and the amount of time that you have given, because I know how much it took away from my family. So for you to do this for 18 3/4 years is a huge sacrifice that I don't think most people realize how draining and how much it takes away from your family. So I thank you. I didn't write anything down because I really can't believe that 3 years have gone by. It feels like a few months. However, when I told my children tonight that tonight is my last meeting, they were both so happy. They're like, thank God, because I essentially haven't been there a lot of times for them in the past 3 years. So I thank my family for lending me to the board. When I was a Girl Scout, we were taught to always leave a place a little bit better than the way you found it. In the last 3 years, I've seen test scores go up. I've seen rankings go up. I've seen the Linden School District praised for so many different initiatives. Things that were pushed from the administration, Dr. Albertozzi, Ms. Cleary, things that you may not think are important, but they're the driving force for Linden to keep getting better. The data and assessment position is huge, that at the state level, they're recognizing the work that we're doing, that we're head and shoulders above other districts before it was even put out public that this is what the commissioner is driving us to do. We are, once again, year after year, one of the best school districts for music education in America. The IB program is head and shoulders above what almost every other district can offer students in Union County. The security protocols that we put in place, the Class 3 officers, the launch every year, the pushing for our language arts department to keep improving the summer reading. I have seen more teachers who are so dedicated, who truly do love our children. Like, I could not ask for better teachers for my kids. And I try and recognize them as it goes along, and I don't want to start naming names because I want to leave somebody out. But we really do have a good district here. We have amazing staff, not just teachers, but staff from top to bottom. And I want to give a special thanks to Mrs. Cleary for putting up with me, because you are very logical, and I think when you bring your ideas to the table, it's already been thought through, so that then you have people like me picking apart your ideas. And it's kind of surreal knowing that the education that you have and the dedication that you put into doing your job, yet you still have to listen to our criticisms or questions. And I want you to know that I respect you tremendously. So I thank you for that. Ms. Skayward, for those who don't know, my first few months as a board member, I had no idea the immensity of the budget. And I'm not a numbers person, I'm not a money person, as you can tell by the places that I've left my credit cards and wallets and things. That you took so many of lunch hours and hours for several weeks going over every single line of the budget and answering my questions over and over again. Really, without being condescending, just seriously answering my questions. And I think that you respected that I was asking questions, and you were so giving as a teacher, getting me to catch up with the numbers. So I thank you for that. And we've said it so many times, but the district is so lucky to have you, because we know that you are an amazing business administrator. Dr. Albertozzi. I don't think I really have words. It's been an interesting journey from where we started to now, and I hope that maybe you understand, not just me, but other parents who are so passionate, and how sometimes we do come across as the crazy window lady. The fact that anybody doubts how dedicated and driven you are. The ideas that you have and are putting through, and we may not always agree, but so many times they are, again, cutting edge and ahead of the pack. And you are so far ahead of some of your peers. I don't want to insult the rest of, but I will, because I am. It's a hard job. It's a harder job than I ever thought. It is probably the one job that I would never want in my entire life. And it takes you so far away from teaching, which I know that you truly loved. You couldn't ask for a better superintendent. Thank you very much. So, Mama Sue out. That's it.
I will let me make my final comments now before we open it up to the public. I sat down 3 or 4 times to write what I was going to say, and I kept thinking about what should I do, how should I do it. So when you're on the board for the length of time that I was on the board, I have seen so many changes in Linden that you can't believe. And the fact that we were able to accomplish this with circumstances the way they are in terms of funding and issues like that, to me is totally amazing. Dr. Robertosi said before, I didn't run until my daughter was in her senior year, and the elections were in April. So when I was elected, which I didn't expect to be first time out, she got mad at me because she said, you told me you were going to wait till I was out of school. I said, it's the end of April, you're graduating in June, what's to do? So we dealt with that, and I had the good fortune of giving her diploma. First, the physical changes here to the district in Linden. When I was first elected, they were putting the addition onto School 4. The board had already approved that. We were in the process of bidding the job. There was a big discrepancy as to whether we should get 4 classrooms or 8 classrooms, blah, 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 blah. We added the 8, and Superintendent Martino at the time felt that we were going to be able to keep the 5th grade in the area. We're going to have a neighborhood school. Because my children only went to School 4 to the 3rd grade, and then they got shipped out. And the School 4 kids got shipped out to School 6, School 8, School 10. There was no real community in the School 4 area. And so after the addition was done, we could only go up to grade 4. And we were still shipping 5th graders out. We reclaimed the basements of School 5 and School 6 because they were all flooded and moldy and things like that. We reclaimed the 3rd floor of School 1, where everybody said it was danger and it was going to fall. I said, wait a minute. If it's going to fall, it's going to fall down on the kids on the 2nd floor and the 1st floor. So we had to check that, and we were able to do that. We put an addition onto the high school across the street, School 8 and School 2. Replaced all the windows and doors, all the security work, all those things that we were able to do without having to float a bond. And all because, as said before by my peers, Miss Gaylord. Miss Gaylord made it happen. And I don't mean to tell you, all when Teresa talked about all the different places I've been in the state, doing those things, legislative committees, all these different things. The one thing I always say is that we have the best business administrator in the state. No ifs, ands, or buts. There's no way. We could have achieved the things that we did. And now that the state is finally breaking loose with some money, look out. Dr. Robertosi, Part 2. When I first ran for the board, one of the reasons I ran was because the curriculum throughout the district varied depending on what elementary school you went to. There were different clubs and opportunities depending on what middle school you were in. The only time you had equal access was when you got to high school, where all the students were. And it goes back to Ms. Gaylord pointed out when Mr. Martino became superintendent that they didn't use the same books in every elementary school. Every elementary school had their own program. And one of the things that I worked with very much with Mr. Martino was to make sure that you could move from School 4 to School 8 and not be behind or ahead because you changed elementary schools. That every elementary school was following the same curriculum and that all our kids were achieving. We introduced the International Baccalaureate program. The one-to-one initiative for our students. One of the biggest factors in the education gap is because poorer children don't have the same access to technology that wealthier ones do. And that causes a big problem. And it has nothing to do with anything other than opportunity. The opportunity to have the same thing that everyone else has. And that's what we've been able to achieve here in Linden. The ROTC program, and both my kids went through it. The band, the marching programs, the athletic teams, what are the things that we offer? Oh, I forgot we put a new field in. All those things that happened over the last 18 and, to correct Mrs. Villani and Ms. Welch and Doc, 18 and 2/3 years. Because it's from April to January. That's 8 months, 12 to 3. It's just been amazing. And to praise Dr. Robertosi, which, you know, he's like, he could be my kid. That's how long I've been married. I worked for 4 or 5 different superintendents when I taught. By the way, Mrs. Villani, I used to teach.
Good to know.
And hired 2 superintendents here and worked with 3 here. Mrs. Martino, Dr. Tomasic. That's what happens when we get old. Dr. Tomasic and by far the best superintendent. I would have loved to have worked for Dr. Robertosi. What he has done to unify the staff, the launch day at the beginning of every school year, when the entire staff, not just the teachers, the secretaries, the paras, the aides, the custodians, the maintenance, everybody gets together and has this big unity and learns from people, outside speakers, how important everyone is to the education of a child. How important the secretaries and the custodians and the paras and the aides are to the education of the child, as well as the teachers. I know what teachers do. I never was anything else. So, I'm going to leave on this note. I'm going to ask the remaining board members and the new elected board members to make sure that they take their training seriously, that they find out and they don't neglect learning. New Jersey School Boards offers a plethora of courses that you can sign up for and go and do, whether they're on a Saturday or sometimes at night. And when Mrs. Villani talked about the county meetings, you're not restricted to Union County meetings. You go to any county meeting you want. So if it's in Middlesex County, it's something you want to learn, Essex County, whatever. And there are a lot of really good places to eat, by the way. Please take advantage of it. Take advantage of learning what it takes to move this district forward. And remember, you're doing this for the children. I'd like to just take this opportunity to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, a joyous holiday season, and a happy new year. And with that, I will accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.